individually to them, partly because they're graduating, right? They're graduating from junior high. This is their junior high basketball career is coming to an ending, and now they get looking forward to playing high school ball next year, which I'm excited for them about. But I'm going to call them up individually and say a little something to them about each person.
Art.
It's just hail, it's okay. So one thing about me is I have as long as I can remember I've done this, I have a habit of nicknaming people. Like I rarely, especially when I coach my players, there's only maybe one or two that I don't have a nickname for and don't call them as their nickname on a regular basis. So I'm going to call the 8th graders out. I'm going to call them by their real name, but you're also going to hear their nickname too. So we're going to start in alphabetical order by last name. So Cole Edwards, the mop. So Cole Edwards is the mop because this kid is on the floor all the time, and in a good way most of the time. He's one of those kids that you love to coach. So it's one thing like when you're playing a game and you see somebody dive for a loose ball, right? This kid does it. I mean, sometimes we're going through walkthroughs and somebody accidentally, the ball slips out and he dives for it on the ground. You know, it's like that kind of hustle and determination is what makes coaching enjoyable, at least for me. And so that's why he's the mop. He gives it 100%. He was also our nomination, or I should say my nomination for the 8th grade boys basketball for January Student Athlete of the Month. So I think, I probably don't need to say anything else. That's what I think the Cole Edwards record. Okay. This next one, I've coached this kid since he's in 3rd grade, and he's had the same daggone nickname ever since 3rd grade. Grady Tatey. Yeah, I would yell that in the middle of the game. Grady Tatey! So Grady is our long-range specialist, as you guys probably saw. Like he's our 3-point specialist. So I knew that going in. I knew Grady could shoot. He's got the ability to shoot. Even he had some ups and downs. We battled together and got through a cold shooting streak, but I think we did it. You're shooting better at the end of the year. That's not what impresses me about Grady. I've known that part about Grady for a long time since I've coached him. What impressed me though, and every set of coaches, every human being, I guess, we all have our set of values and stuff. So for me, my basketball values tend to stay on the defensive inside of the floor. You know, the defense end of the floor, that's what I value. I've told my kids from the first day that we started within this year, if you want to play for me, you be good at defense. You know, if you don't have the skill set, if you're not a good shooter, you can't dribble, you don't have all these things, if you can play defense, you will play for me. I will get you on the floor. By the end of the season, and I wouldn't always chalk it. He'd go here and there, and like sometimes he'd be a good defender. Sometimes he decided he didn't feel like being a good defender that day or whatever. By the end of the season, I mean, somewhere probably halfway or maybe more, I can't remember. By the end of the season, I was assigning Grady the other team's best player to guard consistently every single game. Like when we game prep, when I give him the scouting report, I'm like, Grady, you got this dude. He's their leading scorer. You know, you got to shut him down or whatever. It's nothing that you probably like necessarily see from the stands, but for me, Grady Tatey, that is the best compliment that you'll ever get from me is when I say, you're going to guard your best player. Congratulations. Another one I've had since 3rd grade, I think. Cam Folker. And I call Cam a sore. I call Cam I am. I call Cam a lot of things. Come on up, Cam. I think all the boys sitting here talk about like a race, sunshine in practice or whatever. There is no kid that made us laugh more this whole entire year than Cam. Am I right? Cam is always doing something that makes us laugh. he's just got that carefree attitude, his mannerisms, and what always cracked me up in practice, we'd be going through plays or whatever, and I'd be catching Cam out of the corner of my eyes, we'd be running through something, and Cam is clearly daydreaming. Like, he is off in la la land thinking about I don't know what. And then suddenly he catch a pass and just drain a three. Just like it was like, how do you do that? Like, it's like, I can't even yell at him because he's like nailing the three. But Cam's a good kid. Skill-wise, there is not many kids probably in this whole entire room that are as fundamentally sound as Cam is. He has worked tremendously hard over the summertime on his post moves and stuff, and very fundamentally sound. He's also one of the best free throw shooters that we have in here. He can can some free. We would have free throw shooting games and contests all the time, and Cam would always be at least in the hunt at the end to win. So good job. Okay, Calvin Goodbar. So, in this environment, and I know I've caught myself, I think 4 times a night I've called him Calvo. So I just typically call him Calvo, that's his nickname. However, I always felt in the game, you guys remember like the Chipmunks, the 3 Chipmunks or whatever, and the one that always seemed to be getting in trouble was Calvin. I always felt like I was that guy in a game because I'd be like, Calvin! Calvin is a great athlete, and he knows how to compete. So Calvin's backstory is he started coming to a few open gyms after football was over, and then like, I don't think I'm going to play. I'm like, what do you mean you don't think you're going to play? You need to play. He's like, I'm not sure I'm going to play. Okay, so he shows back up at tryouts, and he ends up playing, but he just kept telling me like, Coach, I'm not a basketball player. I'm a football player. So, okay. But we can use you because he's athletic. And I knew if I could get Calvin to play defense and rebound for me, I got a spot for him on this team. And that is exactly what Calvin did. Calvin also had some tough assignments. Like a lot of times Calvin would guard their best post player. And one thing that I try to create with my culture on our teams, and I try to get motivate the kids on stats that aren't mainstream, I guess. So one of the stats, every once in a while, I just throw, hey, Calvin, did you know you were leading rebounder last night? You had 10. Yeah, I just threw a little nugget out there to him, so he'd take pride in that and want it more. And towards the end of the season, Calvin would be coming up to me, he's like, Coach, how many rebounds I have last night? Like, he wanted that. So, good job. He took pride in what he's doing. And Calvin, I want to tell you, you might be a football player, but you're also a basketball player. Nate Greer's not here. I won't go through the whole thing, but his nickname's Big Nate. So Nate was new to me. I should have mentioned Calvin was new to me too. I never coached Calvin before, but it was fun coaching Nate and Calvin and Max. We'll get to you. Tegan Henry. Tegan's nickname, since he's been a little kid from old dad, has been Teak Puff. So Tegan is Teak Puff. He didn't always like it when I would say that around his friends, but Tegan's Teak Puff, so I just couldn't help myself. He's Teak Puff. It's tough being a coach's kid. I think it's probably tougher being Dennis Henry's kid when he's coaching. So I know I'm very self-aware. I am super hard on this kid. When we made mistakes as coaches, or when we made mistakes as a team on the way home, it was Tegan's fault. All the way home. And maybe into the next day. There was one of those games that I felt like we should have won. And it was just bothering me. It was one of those nights that I came in, told Coach Will I was still up at 2:30 in the morning. I couldn't sleep because I was still thinking about this game or whatever. That particular game, I thought that Tegan did not play to his abilities. And I didn't think that he had the drive. Like, he just was like, not there. Like, I just felt like, man, you were just not there tonight. Like, you didn't show up. You cannot not show up for me. And it bothered me. And Tegan and I didn't speak to each other for 24 hours. Just so you know, behind the scenes, not here there. We did not speak to each other for 24 hours. But it is hard being a coach's kid, but I put a lot on Tegan. I expect a lot out of him. He was our point guard, or is our point guard. So he was in charge of, I tasked him with being our basketball distributor, leading the team in assists, and being a scoring point guard. And he did all of those, even though sometimes I would tell him he wasn't doing them. He did all of those. He was like our second leading scorer, leader in assists, and the extra stuff though that you don't see in the stat book that Tegan brings, and I know some of us have talked about it, just because we are a basketball family. I played basketball, Carrie played basketball, our kids play basketball. We eat, sleep, and drink basketball. Tegan has a very high basketball IQ. And one of the other things that you'll never see in a stat book or whatever, but it is so nice having and I know Coach will agree, and he has this too, but it is so nice when your point guard can be the coach on the floor. Like he can be an extension of you on the floor. There was a lot of times where Tegan would see what defense they were in before I did and was calling the correct play. Or I'd be distracted talking to somebody and I'd turn around and he had them in what they should be in. That is a breath of fresh air, and he's done a good job of learning the game of basketball. Basketball is his favorite, although football is his second closest favorite for him too. One other thing I just wanted to mention, because that was everything Coach Henry is just talking to you there. However, as a dad, I will say some of the things that, and I know you guys see this in your own kids, so I'm just gonna bring it up because I saw little things like this in all of your children this year, coaching them. But so we get into part of a game where some of the kids that don't get to play a lot of minutes would get in on the floor. And a lot of times I would leave Tegan out there, so he could have so I could have that coach, so I could have that point guard on there. And I never had to worry, like Tegan, I never called a play, never told Tegan, like, hey, don't shoot it. But, a lot of times the other team's got their bottom of the bench in, right? So that's, Tegan or Cole or one of these guys, they could probably just have a field day and run off and score 10 points in a row against the bottom end of the other team or whatever. Tegan never did that, and I never had to tell him that. He would be orchestrating, for one of the kids that didn't get a lot of minutes, he would be calling specific plays before I could even call them to get that kid a shot. And he would pound the ball into them and make sure they're getting shots. That's a proud dad moment. So there you go. Max Nichols. Yeah. So I typically call Max Maximus, short for Maximus Prime, of course. So he's my Maximus. I wrote here, if you look up positive attitude in the dictionary, I'm pretty sure Max's picture is next to that. His picture's in there for that. He's the type of kid, I put here that he's the type of kid that you always want on whatever team you're coaching. I don't care if it's checkers, soccer, basketball. Max is the kid that you want on your team because of his attitude. He's positive. He is a fabulous teammate. He encourages everybody. He works hard. One of the stories that I have for Max, and behind the scenes that you guys don't always get to see. So it's kind of towards the end of the game, or end of the season, and Max gets in and he gets fouled, like he goes to the line. I know he had 3 free throws and he should have got 4. The ref gypped him out of his 4th free throw. And I couldn't convince him otherwise. But Max went up and he went 0 for 3 from he didn't hit a field goal, missed a free throw, missed them all. He's disappointed about that, right? Comes up to me after the game, looks me square in the eyes, and says, Coach, I'm going home and working on those free throws. I said, okay, good job, Max. Next day we get practice. He comes back, he's like, I forget exactly what he said, but he's like, I went home and shot free throws in my driveway all night or whatever, for an hour after the game he got home. That's the kind of kid that Max is. And so I think it was 2 games later, Max gets in the game, they foul him, he gets to the free throw line, 2 for 2. Right off. And then later in the game, or a couple games after that, he went like 3 for 4, I think. 2 for 4, 3 for 4. But made improvements on that. That's kind of Max. That's the kid Max Nichols is. So I know so he's 20, and Jacob's the other 20. That's my nickname. That's mostly because if I don't know which one I'm talking to, I just call him 20. Right? I did start to get better towards halfway through the season about getting the right kid, Carson or Jacob. I've coached both of these kids. I'm going to try to talk them individually because I know you probably get along together a lot. But I've coached both of these since they were in 3rd grade. And Carson has always given 100% effort. I've noticed he really has worked at his game, like on his form and function and fundamentals. And specifically, like his shooting form has gotten a lot better. And he's made a lot of strides in it. Don't you agree? I think so too. So towards the end of the year, I forget if it was like foul trouble or we had kids I think it was foul trouble. We got in, and Carson had the task of like, I called him over. I'm like, Carson, listen, you gotta go. Like you're gonna have to play a bunch tonight. And I think it ended up being a couple games or whatever that we had this scenario where like we needed more post players. And Carson played a lot and he did a fabulous job. I remember bringing him out of the game towards the end and fist bumping him and telling him good job because when Carson needed to step up, Carson stepped up. Thank you. I did skip one part. Carson is my Duke fan, and Jacob is a fan of that other team. Come on up, Jacob. So I've had Jacob since he was in 3rd grade too. Jacob, I mean, he's probably right in there with, if I was going to do a most improved kid award, improved on his basketball game or whatever, Jacob would definitely be in the conversation this year. I wasn't sure where I saw Jacob. Obviously, he was a post player. We had several post players. I wasn't sure like what my post player rotation was going to be. Well, you guys saw. Jacob rose to the top of my post rotation and ended up playing a lot, started a few games, just did a lot of nice things. And specifically, Jacob's got some pretty killer post moves too. And I just remember it was one game, we got the ball into Jacob in the post, and I was a little nervous. Like I just expected him to kick it back out to one of the guards. I thought he'd catch it and kick it back out. No, he rolled up when somebody did this and shot it, and I'm like, go Jacob. It was awesome. Good job, bud. So I coached Rylan when he was younger, and then he decided to concentrate more on soccer, I think. And so I lost Rylan, and I know he didn't play last year. I didn't coach, but he didn't play last year. I was surprised and shocked when Rylan came back to try out for the team, but I was also very happy. And so the biggest thing with Rylan this year is he showed up. I mean, we know like soccer's his main thing, but he wanted to play basketball, which I was impressed with. And I knew I could get Rylan on the floor again if he would play defense for me. Like I could just see him being a defensive stopper for their best guard. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, Rylan is super quick. So I knew like when I got a kid that's super quick and will play defense for me, he's got a home for me. And so as we started the season with Rylan, like I could tell what he was missing was confidence. Like he looked like a soccer player that was just trying out for basketball. Like you could just see it on his face. Like he had no confidence. So I just kept giving him like little nuggets here and there, like, hey Ryan, good job, bud. Hey, you're coming along. You know, you're doing good. You're getting better. And I just kept trying to pump him up all the year. And Rylan ended up starting several games. And Rylan was also tasked with a lot of if another team had a really good or quick guard, that's who I put Rylan on. So good job. We'll see you guys. Cole Workman. Last but not least, please, to the W's. So Cody's the opposite of some of these kids that I just recently talked about. Basketball is Cole's first sport, right? Favorite sport. So Cole, obviously, if you've seen him play, he's athletic, he's strong, and he can dominate a game. I knew that going in, that I had that type of player on my hands here. My biggest win with Colt, my proudest moment with Colt though, I don't know, like sometimes like the little infinite things in basketball, I know like the casual fan does not see. But we talked about it, we decided we were going to work it and we were going to conquer it. Colt a lot of times will put his head down, he'd get the ball, he know he's bigger, stronger, faster, I can take anybody in junior high level and so I'm going to. Put his head down and he'd dribble through, he'd take on 3 guys to go to the rim, and sometimes he'd make it, sometimes he'd miss it, but what I explained to Colt throughout the year is when that happens, none of the other 4 teammates touch the basketball, right? And again, as I said at the beginning, Coach Will and I, our big thing is we want team basketball. We know we still got some strides to make, but I hope everybody saw and appreciated how much of a team player Colt Workman was at the year. And we gave him a couple, he wants to learn and he wants to do. I gave him this move that I used to do. It's my favorite move, and I just thought this is a move for Colt. It's like the shot foot and rocker step. I call it rocker step. Shot fake, rocker step. If you guys saw him do it at the end of the year. I taught him that one time in one practice, and the next game he's doing it in a game. That is hard to do. I mean, it took me years to get that move down, and he did it in one practice and was putting it in motion in the game. So Colt was our leading scorer. There were times where he was our leading rebounder. He's just that kind of kid, and he's got a bright future at Green High.